Let's go. Are you kidding me? Derek Carr finally decides to call it quits after a tumultuous offseason with his shoulder recovery. This is the best news the Saints fans have had in quite some time. Even if you think Tyler Shuck is going to be a big time QB, it is better to get out what wasn't working before trying to figure out what could potentially work. Derek Carr was not working. And as many Saints fans know, you need someone that sinks their teeth into the city of New Orleans. And Derek Carr just never really did that. All the way back to his decision to take his full $40 million into this next season to now where he said, I just can't even give it a go. There is very little sympathy for me regarding the Derek Carr situation. It does make me revisit all of those Michael Thomas takes from the offseason. And on top of all of that, I don't even know where to begin regarding how I feel about the Derek Carr Saints New Orleans era outside of a few good weeks of hope regarding Clint Kubiak and how the Saints started. I think long and hard how different that NFL season would have been if you didn't give up that 3rd and 16 to Dallas Goedert. But that's a different story for a different day. The truth is, Derek Carr was a fine quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and he did make the team better. We were a 500 team with Derek Carr quarterback, and basically with everyone else during the Dennis Allen and the beginning of the interim regime under Darren Rizzi. The Saints overall were just a mediocre team, and I know really Derek Carr didn't play under Rizzi, but the point still remains the same. It's not all on Derek Carr. It was bad coaching, tons of bad injuries mixed in there, but he was bad. Okay. He constantly believed it had nothing to do with him. There was that leaked video of him preaching and him calling out the media and all that BS. It is good news if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, just not only in terms of real football, but in terms of vibes, because it matters. It really does matter in a city like New Orleans. Now, we turn the page here to what is potentially next, with Tyler Shuck being the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I believe that is the direction that they will go. I believe it will be him in week 1. I just don't get really inspired about Spencer Rattler, but I'm still open to the idea of him being the starter. The Saints go out there and get another quarterback. What the heck is Ryan Tannehill up to these days? I will get absolutely positively hammered for this, but what about Aaron Rodgers? I do think a veteran quarterback would be very much welcomed into what is now the consensus worst quarterback room in the NFL. I don't think there's really a close second. Now, you can make a case for the Browns, you can make a case for a few others, but I do think a veteran would be nice to add to this room. Who's out there who would be interested? I don't know. I don't know. Can Teddy Bridgewater still play? I doubt it. I know he's enjoying the post career Teddy, but whatever the case may be, the Saints quarterback room is still a disaster. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. But now we get into the big part of this equation, the money. How is all of this going to get divvied out? The Saints will be able to recoup some of the funds. It's still unclear of how this affects the cap and all of that. But, the Saints had been preparing for this possibility. That's why the initial report turned out to be true, that this Derek Carr shoulder situation was indeed very serious. I do think there were some that believed that there was some nefarious activities going on with Derek Carr potentially not liking the Tyler Shuck pick and whatever. But, it was indeed true that he had a shoulder situation. It is strange, though, that it did take quite some time for Derek Carr to realize that this was an issue. You'll see here from Nick Underhill. Carr tried all his options getting back to the field and ultimately decided against having another surgery. Saints will recoup the money from this offseason restructure and will get cap relief. Okay. There's Derek Carr's statement, a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Derek Carr suffered a labral tear and also had significant degenerative changes to his rotator cuff. So, somewhat, in some ways, kind of the same way that Drew Brees went down. Saints bungled their cap management. This is one of my favorite NFL analysts, Adam Levitan, and now it's coming all at once in the form of a full rebuild. Okay, I do think it is better for the Saints to just bottom out this year, which very well could happen. I mean, there's still some good players on this roster. I still think when it comes to 1-2 combos at wide receiver, there's not a whole lot better than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Obviously, the Saints have a good tight end room. They're rebuilding this offensive line. We'll see what Devin Neal can bring to the running back room, but that room is still good. And they have a lot of experience on defense. But I just don't. It's, mm. I just don't even know where to go in terms of how I feel about the team going into next season. I wasn't the biggest fan of the draft. I know for those watching on Power Hour NFL, this is my first time doing a stream all off season. And those listening to Believe in Saints, please give this a 5-star review. I just keep going back to how I feel about this roster because there's so many guys, if you are a Louisiana sports fan, that you adore on this current iteration of the Saints team. Okay. You adore Foster Moreau and everything he's been through and playing for the hometown team. You adore Cam Jordan, who's spent his whole career with the Saints and will hopefully one day get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You adore Tyrann Mathieu. The same can be true. Hometown athlete, all-time legend, the number one player of my sports card collection. You adore Alvin Kamara, and so on and so on and so on. But you just keep going back to is the best thing for this team just a true bottom out. And I just think with the way the NFC South is constructed and how the Saints schedule will set up, I don't think that they're going to bottom out. I don't. I think they will still win games this year. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all of Saints football. Okay? Now, personal rant regarding the city of New Orleans. All right. The one thing that's always, and I mean always, bothered me about how some professional athletes treat the 504, a city compared to most NFL cities that have gone through more ups and downs on and off the field than most. I have never understood why professional athletes who are in the top 1% of earners and celebrities. So you might not think Derek Carr is that good. He is 16th all time in salary. 16th all time. Think about all the players that played in the NFL. Think about all the Hall of Famers, which Derek Carr won't come close to. 16th. He has made that much money in 11 seasons. So the money makes it to where Derek Carr does not need New Orleans. All right. He doesn't need them. He's made so much money. And he's not from here, played at Fresno State, Vegas. He will always be known for what he did in Vegas, whatever. But why is it that there are so many New Orleans sports stars that come here with the most warm and welcoming fan base, and they just shit on the city. Anthony Davis, perfect example. Zion Williamson, just be healthy and play. That's all people want you to do. Just go out there, play basketball. Derek Carr, and this list goes on and on. These are some of the best fans. They are not as ruthless as Philadelphia fans or even New York fans, where if you're terrible, well, they're going to hate you. I think if you're a bad New Orleans Saints football player, yeah, people will recognize you're bad, but they won't hate you. Jameis Winston wasn't that great. He's a legend in New Orleans. Same thing is true with Teddy Bridgewater. They brought in the culture, and now they are honorary citizens of the city. And I don't understand how anyone in Derek Carr's camp never recognized that, right? Like, this city that gave you generational wealth just with the few seasons that you played here, you decided to say, hey, I am not going to immerse myself into this wonderful fan base. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to distance myself. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to just be a little bit endearing. And I know when you say that, the Derek Carr stands, the few that exist out there, say, well, he's a Christian and he does all this stuff for charity and all that stuff, and that's great. Okay, that's wonderful. But to have a fan base that is in so much pain in the post-Drew Brees era, and during one of the worst head coaching regimes in recent memory with Dennis Allen, you could have done more. You could have done more. All right. I just have never, ever, 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 ever understood it. I remember Josh Hart saying something, and I'm like, I understand you're in New York now, and this is more NBA than NFL, but why? Why do this to the fans? They love you. They freaking love you here. All right. But that's not here nor there. Okay. A few more thoughts on this as we move forward here. Let's see. This is from Mike Triplett. I've known Mike for a long time. The Saints will still owe Derek Carr $10 million from his fully guaranteed roster bonus, but they will not owe him the $30 million salary that was previously guaranteed for injury only. That brings his total to 2 years and $70 million in both cash paid and eventual total cap charges. Saints make out bad, but a lot better than what you initially thought. Okay. A lot better. Okay. So we'll end on this. We get a comment here from Jordan. He wants to talk about Tyler Shough. Look, I don't think I am in the minority here that wants Tyler Shough to start game one. I don't know if I saw enough from Spencer Rattler to justify him starting week one. I mean, it was bad. I mean, you didn't score a point versus Green Bay. The Denver game got rancid really quickly. I would love to see Tyler Shough get the first team reps and then go from there. Okay. Now, part of it is you spent such high amount of draft capital to get Tyler Shough. There were a lot of good players in that early second round the Saints could have selected, but they went with Shough. Now, there's going to be so many comparisons to Shedeur Sanders, and it's going to be impossible to answer that question because Shador is probably not going to play this next year. Okay. But I do think Tyler Shough will eventually start. Now, I do feel Tyler Shough is a great pick on Fast Draft Fantasy. Okay. Please go sign up. Use my promo code Carter for a deposit match bonus up to $50. Fast Draft Fantasy, your home for rookie drafts. Tyler Shough is basically going undrafted. So if you draft him and you're in one of these large fielded contests, you have a good shot of winning it. Now, Tyler Shough, truth be told, is getting drafted in pretty much all of them now. But early on, he wasn't. So if you think Tyler Shough is a real deal, because in fantasy, rushing does matter, he gives you some rushing upside. Okay. Let's go to Kermit. We'll go to every comment here. I say Rattler and Shough should battle for it. They will. It will be down to those two. I don't think you are going to get a I don't think you're going to get a Jake Haener start, even though I'm cheering for my short king. Spencer Rattler also shorter. I always cheer for the shorter quarterbacks. And personally, I have watched so much Spencer Rattler and done so many Spencer Rattler film studies here on Power Hour NFL. I kind of want him to win the job. Like personally, I like Rattler the best. I'm not the biggest Tyler Shough fan or believer, but you spent second round draft capital on him. I am not the biggest fan of, start the rookie 3 weeks in when you could have started him in week 1. Like, I think the Patriots wasted a lot of time with not starting Drake May. I'm serious. I am a big start him in week 1 unless you have a dude. Then, like the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes stuff. They should have started Alex Smith. They did the right thing. Okay. But unless you have a dude like Alex Smith who's good, you roll with the guy you basically spend a first round pick on. Let's go to Lulu Gust. It sucks the way Carr ended in his last few seasons. All right, let's have a conversation about Derek Carr's career. All right. With the Raiders, he was always in turmoil. He was always dealing with off the field, typical Raiders stuff. And he still produced at a pretty decent level. And truth be told, I mentioned my Tyrann Mathieu football card collection. I flipped quite a few Derek Carr cards because his underlying metrics were good. Overall, if you really go look at Derek Carr's numbers with the Raiders, his QBRs were always in that top 10 range. Completion percentage, always kind of sort of in that top 10 range. He was never really a top 5 guy in any category. But at a job where there is rarely 32 good ones, being 10th in terms of QBR and in terms of actual real life football, around 15th, 16th best starter for a good chunk of your career, y'all, Jay Cutler is rich. Kirk Cousins is rich. So Derek Carr filled a need. He was not bad. He also wasn't bad with the Saints. He was not. Last year when he was healthy, he was good. He ran the offense. He was actually excellent, as good as any QB in the first couple of weeks. But there's more to it. There's a lot more to it than just that. Let's go to BT. Tyler Shough is one of the most polarizing guys I've ever seen this franchise draft. Seems like he has more haters in this fan base than he does in the media. He does have a lot of haters. And I do think, and I'm one of them. I don't know if I would consider myself a hater per se, because I think a hater would mean you genuinely, in your heart of hearts, dislike the pick. I also think if you are technically a hater of something, you have to give a better option if you are a hater. Because to me, if I hate you, there's also a piece of me that thinks that there is a better option available. So if I do hate you, who out there could be better? Well, for Saints fans, that player is Shedeur Sanders. There are a lot of football casuals, and I'll just call them casuals, that think that Shedeur Sanders was the best pick for the Saints at pick number 9. Casuals. You're casuals. When the entire NFL said, no, he's not that. He's a 5th round pick. And I'm not saying later round picks can't be great. The entire NFL passed on Brock Purdy. The entire NFL passed on Tom Brady. The entire NFL passed on Russell Wilson. Those are 3rd, 6th, and 7th round picks. But neither of those 3, or any of those 3, were guys with first round hype. And none of those 3 collectively tanked in their interviews. The bottom line is, I don't believe Shedeur Sanders is going to be a good starting quarterback in the NFL. I just don't. I wouldn't say I'm a Shedeur hater per se. I'm a doubter. All right. Am I a Derek Carr hater? Yes, I'm a Derek Carr hater. Am I a Tyler Shuck and Shedeur Sanders doubter? Yes, I am. All right. The one thing I do like about Tyler Shuck is that you can see the upside. You do see a really, really, really good arm. All right. I think right now, if he were to be a starter in the NFL, his arm would be borderline top 10. All right. He does give you some rushing. Let's go to TJ. Derek Carr is not welcome in NOLA again. Worst free agent signing in Saints history. Dude had no respect for many of the players in the building. The move shows that. Shuck took over this team. So is he the worst free agent signing in Saints history? I don't know. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. It could be that I'm just like, I went nuts when I got the alert that Derek Carr was retiring. Who was the it was something began with the B. Who was the safety that came over from the Bills? Who was a Pro Bowl all-world safety from the Bills, came over to the Saints, and he was just terrible. God, why am I drawing a blank? He was so bad. That's up there. Bird, yes. Because I thought it was Bird, but there's a few safeties, BYRD, in the NFL. Let's go to Casey. Carr did great with John Gruden, then things started to come apart for the Raiders for various reasons. Carr can never get his bearing back. And you also say Shaw is not a day one starter. He's a project. Let's shuck him up, baby. Here we go. Saints messed up not getting Shedeur Sanders. I am willing. To say that Shedeur Sanders is not going to be a good starter. Okay. Now, before we get to Brian's astute super chat, this is the funniest thing about. All right. The first thing is, this is a thumbnail of Derek Carr. There's nothing in my title that has anything to do with Shedeur Sanders. I brought him up because it is part of the Shuck discussion because that's who a portion of the Saints fan base wanted. They wanted Shedeur Sanders. Okay. So I'm getting called an Uncle Tom, white supremacist, for not liking Shedeur Sanders. Okay. I want this to be clear. I have never in my career, and I study sports media, and what I've done, okay? Never in my career have I seen one player break the brains of people. Shedeur Sanders caused an epic meltdown from Mel Kiper, the most respected draft analyst of our time. Full all-out meltdown. For what? For what? Why? Over one player? I mean, full meltdown mode. Okay. Then there was a national reporter that compared what happened to Shedeur Sanders. He used a vague comparison to Emmett Till. All right. Clarence Hill was a reporter. I was like, what? And I like Clarence Hill. I was like, what are you doing? What is this? Joy Taylor went on a crazy rant about the NFL not being able to evaluate quarterbacks when most of the NFL quarterbacks are first or high second round picks. I'm serious. Like, literally go read any video I've ever done on Shedeur Sanders on here or anywhere else. You cannot have a discussion about him. All right. I feel sorry for him. I really do. You can't have a reasonable discussion about him because reasonable people have their brains broken. They can't. They bring up race and all this stuff. Okay, and I'm not saying that didn't have something to do with that, but race oftentimes has something to do with whatever you're talking about. But in this instance, I've really, there's not been one player, never. All right. And there are plenty of players that create toxic discourse. All right. The Jordan versus LeBron debate does not come close to the toxic discourse that comes to Shedeur Sanders. Okay. Now I'll let you finish up. You're trying to be contrary because you didn't get enough attention. Insecure a beta male. All right. So I am being contrary for not bowing down to the feet of Shedeur Sanders. If anything, I am doing the opposite of contrary because 32 multi-billion-dollar organizations who know that the most single important asset is a good starting quarterback in the NFL all passed on him. And the worst organization in the NFL actually said, look, we're going to draft him after we already drafted a quarterback, an off-ball linebacker, and 2 running backs. That's what we're going to do. So the worst organization decided to select him in the 5th round. When at that point, I was like, this is going to be a UDFA, which was my initial grade on Shedeur Sanders after his first season at Colorado. You can go back and look. It's on this channel. And after this last season, he grew on me. He is accurate. He is tough as nails. He has some ability. I just think he's a backup. All right. You do believe Shedeur Sanders is a modern Graham Harrell or Colt Brennan or Rakeem Cato, solid numbers versus bad teams. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty accurate. But yeah, I don't think the Saints should have gone in that direction. If I get old takes exposed on it, I am perfectly fine with that. I am perfectly fine. Now, moving on from Shedeur. I am shocked, appalled, if you will, blown away, led astray, run amok, bamboozled at the disrespect that a guy by the name of Rashid Shaheed has gotten this offseason. Okay? It's amazing that people have totally forgotten that not only was he great, he might be the best receiver on this team. I freaking love me some Rashid Shaheed. So I do a lot of fantasy drafts. I do. People do not draft Rashid Shaheed. They just let him fall. And I'm like, okay, let him go. Y'all, Rashid Shaheed is arguably the best pure wide receiver to take the top off the defense weapon. I'm not saying he's the best wide receiver two in the NFL. Not saying that at all. What I am telling you, though, is that he does provide a very valuable skill that opens up space for your offense to operate. I want to see some Tyler Shuck bombs to Rashid Shaheed. Let's go to Casey. Is Taysom an option here? Let's go to Derek. He points out Taysom Hill is 7-2 as a quarterback. Derek is 14-13. TJ said, I'll die on the hill of Taysom Hill. All right. So the first thing when discussing Taysom Hill, you have to question his physical state right now. Is he hurt? How is he going to be coming off this injury? Is there an injury that we have to worry about here? First thing is I do think that Taysom Hill is someone that intrigues the new coaching staff. So with these kind of Swiss Army knife type of players, they're uncommon. Do the Saints and their new brain trust want someone like that to be a part of the offense? I do think, based on what I've heard Kellen Moore say, he's very open to Taysom Hill being a piece of what the Saints do. And that's a good thing, right? Does this open the Saints up for him playing more quarterback reps this next year? I don't know. I think the big question, though, is if he's even going to be on the team. I would lean towards yes at this point, but I don't know. I do think one of the most interesting decisions the Saints decided to do this offseason was with Juwan Johnson, re-signing him, paying him well, giving him good tight end money. I thought that was very, very, very interesting. And I think Juwan Johnson's a fine starting tight end. I don't think he's, elite by any stretch of the imagination. You can consider Juwan Johnson the Derek Hill or the Derek Carr of tight ends. But I do think he's good. I do think he's a piece. He does cut into Taysom Hill's reps, right? Because when I think of the Eagles offense, I think of them mostly as your traditional 11 personnel kind of offense, where Clint Kubiak was far more elaborate with 12 personnel per tight end groupings and so on and so on. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I do have to go get ready. My niece Preshie is having her dance recital tonight, so I'm not missing that. There's I got to go get her a gift for you dance recital dads. I'm not a dad, but You can't mess up the dance recital gift. You gotta go get it. So there you go. I enjoyed this live stream. Let me know if you guys want to see more Power Hour NFL live streams. I know we're mostly a film study channel, but I mean we have to go live after this. Okay, it is PHN. Tonight we're doing some eggs and bacon. Let's go. Thanks to our super chat from BT. Let's go.